Hey, everybody. Welcome to Detroit Lions Podcast. It's week 4, coming off of a win. This is your Bish and Brown episode for week 4 without Russ Brown. So you guys are just going to have to tolerate it. It's sad that he can't be here to be a part of this, but we're going to move on. He'll be back next week. Maybe even later this week. We'll see how it goes. So, we're gonna hit after the break. We're gonna hit a little bit of the Atlanta Week 3 game, and we're gonna look forward to the Lions game Thursday night coming up at Green Bay. So stay tuned. Coming at you right after the jump. Right off the hop, I think we all can appreciate the way the Lions played. Against Atlanta and how easy they made that game look on both sides of the ball. And that's not to take away from Atlanta so much, because it's a pretty good football team. It's just, I guess the one takeaway I would run with after that game is that the Falcons are just absolutely not set up to come from behind. They're just not. They're set up to run the football. Take time off the clock, reduce possessions, and essentially play from ahead is where the Falcons are going to be at their best. So if they're in games where they get more than a 7-point lead, I would expect them to do pretty well in those situations where, they can run the ball and just generate first downs and, make themselves. Just keep themselves ahead in situations like that. But in this game, that is not how it played out, and it is not what happened. And asking that particular offense with Desmond Ridder at quarterback to make throws and keep them in games where they're down and coming from behind it's just not working. It's not going to work for what he is as a player and how they're built. So kind of running off of that is just the concept of, you love how the Lions got enough done on offense without some key pieces. David Montgomery's a key piece. We'll get into that looking forward in a little bit. Taylor Decker is a huge piece. So I mean, they were missing some pieces. They were not at full strength yet. They were able to get some plays made. Jared Goff again played really well. We're gonna have to at some point eat some crow on that one. And I know you know what I'm talking about. Looking at what they did on offense, they did enough to get that game won. But on defense, it was interesting how in the first 2 weeks they played a very conservative sort of contained. I don't want to say contained; it's the wrong word. Definitely contained in week 1, but real passive in week 2. Their approach to how they were going to attack the passer. And this week was a very different story. You had Hutchinson looking just ridiculous. A huge game from him, but you also had a sack from Derek Barnes. You had a sack from Jack Campbell. You had, you kind of had it all working, and Atlanta has a good offensive line. So, the Lions did this last year. They went long stretches early in the season last year where they looked like they weren't going to generate a ton of pressure. They weren't going to get things done that way. And then they just seemed to flip a switch when Aubrey Pleasant got moved on, when he was let go. It just seemed like their defense went in a different direction, and it just freed them up to get after the quarterback. So you kind of know it's there. It's just we needed to see it, and we saw that in week 3. So that was, I think for us Lions fans, just kind of watching that one play out, it was just, we're going to sweat tight games all year. This was not one of them. So, it's nice to get a divisional win, a conference win, I should say. It's nice to be 2-1. We can look back at the Seattle game. We're going to do this the entire year and think they should be 3-0. But here we are. It's week 4. We're moving on to a Thursday night game at Green Bay. So there's a couple things that I'm interested in to see how they play out. And obviously it's too soon after 3 games to really know. And with one of these situations, it's a 1-game exposure. And that is essentially the usage for Jamir Gibbs with David Montgomery in and with David Montgomery out. conventionally, it's not a great thing to have to be like a backup or a second fiddle type of player to a guy who's getting the majority of the between the tackles carries. But it just seemed like in the Atlanta game that the Lions were pretty insistent on running the ball with Gibbs and less concerned with throwing the ball to Gibbs, where he's much more dynamic. And I think that if we just take that 1 week sample and sort of like set it aside, but glean a little something from it, it's that the Lions offense needs to establish a ground presence. They did that with Montgomery in weeks 1 and 2 until he got hurt. And last week against Atlanta, they did that with Gibbs while not really using the running backs out of the backfield in the passing game. It's just something they didn't really go to. And if I were to really examine how I would have wanted to see Gibbs used, I would have been very wrong on a video last week. So I'm glad I didn't say something like I thought. I just thought they would use Gibbs differently. Clearly, they used him in a much more traditional sense. But I do think he's much more dynamic catching the ball and out in space. It's obvious than he is just, getting jammed between the tackles kind of stuff. So Montgomery is supposed to be back this week, which makes me very, very excited to watch this offense and just to see how they get Gibbs into space, because it's just a matter of time. It is. It's just a matter of time before he pops a big one. So on a note, it's looking like Taylor Decker is returning also, which is great news. It sounds like he had a high ankle sprain, so he's missed a little bit of time. Cheers. Sorry, coffee. So the Lions are going to roll into this game relatively healthy. So, when we're looking at kind of what Green Bay has going on both offensively and defensively and what the Lions have going on both ways, I don't think this is, obviously traveling in the NFL is tough. Playing inside the division is tough, but this is a huge opportunity for the Lions to kind of separate themselves. This is not a matchup that should be, it's a tough matchup. It's Green Bay on the road, but the Lions have some advantages on offense. I don't know if Jair Alexander is coming back or not, but even if he does, the Lions are kind of built to withstand some of what he might offer. He's more of an outside player, and their offense seems to be running through Amon-Ra St. Brown out of the slot. Obviously, Laporta has been ridiculous. He's just been amazing. And then running the ball. So if Alexander returns, it's cool. It doesn't necessarily impact all that much of what the Lions are going to do. Obviously, getting Sewell back on the right side and having Taylor Decker be okay on the left side, recovered from the ankle sprain, is a big deal for Jared Goff and keeping him keeping him upright, comfortable, and all those things. And he's obviously playing at a very high level right now. So I think that we're looking at a scenario where the Lions offense should be able to produce and get themselves into a situation where they're putting points on the board and forcing the Packers to kind of keep pace with them. And then it's a matter of, looking back to last week, Atlanta couldn't do that. So are the Packers built to potentially, I can't believe I'm saying this, but are they built to come from behind? Are they built to stay with an offense like as productive? Now I'm assuming that the Lions are going to play well on offense and put up some points, but are the Packers built there? And their offensive line is good, but and as efficient as Jordan Love was through 2 games, and yeah, they won last week late. There is some turnover luck that's happening for him. I think he has 4 turnover worthy throws through 3 games. You would hope that the Lions could take advantage of some of that. Obviously, if they're gonna be able to bring pressure like they did in unconventional ways and conventional ways, like they did against Atlanta, you would think that Love would be feeling a little pressure and there'd be some potential problems for him, specifically if they have to get away from running the ball with Aaron Jones, who sounds like he's returning. So that's kind of just the thoughts rolling around. Like, can the Lions get up enough to really put some pressure on Love and force him to make, big boy throws in the face of pressure, not turn the ball over, all those things. So there's a couple ways I think you could see this, and it's the Lions offense scores enough points to put them in a position where they're not running away from from the Packers, but they're running the ball in the third and fourth quarter up and, just chewing up clock and that kind of stuff. You still need Goff to perform well. You need Goff to play well. Turnovers are a big deal. So, no fumbles. It goes without saying, but you can't have kick returns for touchdowns. You can't have punt returns. So you just have to avoid giving up big plays, both defensively and in the kicking game, while also generating enough big plays with your offense to kind of mitigate what Green Bay can do. And that's just, that's as simple a football as there is. I think it's interesting that we see Aleem McNeil pop against Atlanta the way he did last week, and the way they lined up Hutchinson inside, where he wins at a pretty high rate. And it's just I hope that, yes, 1 game sample size, but I hope it's just one of these strings of games where they're going to be able to pressure. We'll see what Jordan Love can do in the face of that pressure. Christian Watson may be returning. He hasn't played yet, so there's going to be some rust there. He's a very fast player. So in the end, you hope that the Lions can harass Love enough to keep him uncomfortable and putting the ball into dangerous places, and he will, while not allowing their running game to get going so much. And even if that's the case, the Lions' run defense has been really, really good so far. They limited Bijan last week. Bijan's pretty awesome. He's fun to watch. And the Lions did a really good job with him last week. Obviously, bad down and distance for him. So situationally, it wasn't great for what the Falcons want to do running the ball. But, this Lions still did a good job of limiting him. This is all very flowery and positive sounding. And it makes me super uncomfortable sitting here this entire time listening to the things that are echoing back into my head that I'm saying. And I'm really wondering if I'm going to get kicked in the nuts Thursday after everything I just said. Truthfully, metaphorically, I hope. So that's kind of like old Lions thinking, right? So, and this is what we all are going to have to get past, is sort of that lingering hanging on of, if it was a few years ago, they'd be in this situation, but this would be the game that they would just lay an egg kind of thing. And, we have to get past that, because as the season rolls on, the Lions are going to play much bigger games than they're going to play in Week 4 against Green Bay. Much more important games. And, the idea of just how things used to be is old. It's old thinking. This is a different group of people making decisions, from a draft standpoint, from a free agency standpoint, and from a coaching standpoint. And I know we could argue about the draft, and we did, and we will again, and we could argue about lots of things. But when you end up with Brian Branch in round 2 and Sam Laporta in round 2, it's pretty good. It kind of offsets, whatever else, wherever deficiencies we may have viewed the draft. But I mean, those guys look like legit, real deal players at really impactful positions, and they've helped them through 3 games, which is remarkable. The injuries have been brutal all around the league so far. So that's another issue. Is like, are you okay in this game with injuries and the injury luck that's there? And obviously, we've mentioned it, but turnovers are going to play a very meaningful role in this game. If the Lions can get some pressure and get one, or more, and help themselves steal a possession kind of thing, I think that that could be interesting stuff. I wouldn't say at this point that Ben Johnson has gotten real super creative with what they've done on offense, and I know some of that has been because of some of the players that they've missed on offense. Like, you're missing Taylor Decker and you're missing David Montgomery. You just need to get through it. And against Atlanta, they did that, and that was some of the appreciation of that game of it just looked like a hot knife through butter when they needed it to. And then they just kind of pulled in the reins and just, all right, let's just grind out this win. And as a coach at a very minor level, in the high school level, I can appreciate that kind of stuff, because it's not easy to do. It's not easy just to grind out that kind of a win. It's just not. So lots of appreciation looking back at what they did in week 3 and how aggressive they were at times on offense, but defensively what they did. And then looking forward, thinking about Green Bay and where they are and what's going on with them offensively and defensively. And I know that they've missed pieces too, and they've had lots of injuries, through 3 games. But this sets up nicely for the Lions. It just does. And again, it makes me uncomfortable to say it. I'm going to smile and just kind of shake my head at my own internal dialogue that's happening right now, which is, yeah, it's not great, but it's just nagging there. So, and we'll get past it. I'm hopeful that through lots of breathing exercises and all other such nonsense, whatever, we can move past these nagging thoughts that shouldn't be there because this is just different. It's different. It feels different. It is different. You have a quarterback playing at a really high level. You have offensive weapons. You have players returning. I don't know what the line is. I don't care. I don't know what the point total is. I don't necessarily care. I think the Lions are built to play just in any way they want to play, whether that means grinding a game with the running game and play action. I mean, that's what they want to do. But there's some splash plays that they'll get too. And the idea of, and I really want people, I mean, in the comments, if you want to crush me on this, that's fine. But I do think it's better for Gibbs not to have 17 carries, kind of I don't know what he had. I'm making that number up. I think it might have been. So what at 17? I don't know what it is. Not to have too many conventional, traditional looks as a runner between the tackles where he's taken lots of contact. I want him in space. And I think the idea that Montgomery returning really opens up pieces of that offense that we just haven't seen yet is something that's valid. And I think that this is a game where you're going to see things that they've been working on and really dialing up for a few weeks. So getting Montgomery back is a big deal. I think it's a bigger deal than people think. So overall, I have a very positive outlook for what's going to happen Thursday night. And I hope you guys do too. Stay with us here as we try to figure out our schedule. Football season's rough for both of us. We both are coaching our kids, and mine's a little older than Russ's, but we're both involved in that. So as the season moves on, we're going to get freed up to do 2 of these a week. One of them will be a post game. One of them will be a pre-game. We may, because it's Thursday night, Russ and I may hit a post game, like a recap kind of a thing, possibly coming maybe Saturday this weekend. So no promises, because I don't know what his future is, and I don't know exactly what I've got going on. If we can hit it, we will. So again, pretty good vibes, pretty positive thoughts for what could be happening and coming on Thursday night. And I've talked about this, and we can all help each other in this process, kind of hold each other's hands, if we will, through this nagging sort of negative talk that we might have in our. It's almost like I'm golfing and I'm playing great and I'm hitting everything perfectly fine, right? Like striping everything. But in the back of my mind, I know it's just a matter of time before I snap hook one out of bounds, because that's what I do. And but it's a different me and it's a different swing, and they're different clubs, and I'm using a new ball, and everything should be different. But that negative self-talk is still there. Oh, I need help. I think you all know that. So regardless, very positive vibes about Thursday, and hopeful that we're going to roll out of that game 3-1 and in a real nice position through 4 games. So that's it for Bish and Brown for pregame for week 4. We'll see you guys later. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the game.